change the... There you go. Oh my god, Harsh. I was waiting for your name to pop up as the first one. You'll never be first. Harsh will always be first. That's kind of what I've come to realize. No, I'm so sorry. I was driving home and there was a car crash. And then I got stuck behind it. Which, I mean, like, my problem seemed very small in comparison to that. So, we'll just leave it. But, yeah, so I finally made it home though, and we're good. Harsh, I actually waited just for you. I stalled this just for you. Because I was like, you know what? I don't think he's going to be here. I gotta wait 15 minutes. But no, so we're going to get into it. We're going to read some chapters. Then I'm going to do a review on the chunk of chapters that I read. Because I have some thoughts about, especially like the last 5 chapters, what happened and what I think is going to go down. And we'll go from there. I also will have to cut. This is going to be a shorter stream. We're going to get through like a few chapters here and there. This is going to be a shorter stream. Stray Kids is dropping their new album tonight, so I am going to be going to listen to that with my roommate and a bottle of wine after we're done here. So we're going to, yeah, see, valid. I can't be blamed for that. So we're going to get into it, and then we're going to read as many chapters as we can, and then I'm going to get from there. But I do I'm probably going to do a review because I have a lot of thoughts on what's happening with what's going on right now. Yeah. Okay, so chapter 5. I noticed all the names are kind of different as they're like popping up. I thought I was going crazy and I was like, oh, they must be using a different handle or they must have changed it, but I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. It's chapter 541, Visitor. What were we just doing? Oh, yeah. Okay. I always kind of forget, and then I get into it. So we're going to see how many chapters we can get through. Knowing the pace in which we read this, we'll probably only get through a few, because I got to finish in, like, an hour. But we'll do what we can. Okay. Chapter 541, Visitor. Sea King, upon hearing the name of Jan Kottman's sequence, the first thing Klein thought was the complete honorific name of the Lord of Storms, the King of the Skies, the Emperor of the Seas, the Lord of Calamity, and the God of Storms. My honorific name is better. I'm saying it right here. Sequence 3 is Sea King. Sequence 0 contains the elements of Sea Emperor, so it doesn't match well. I wonder what Sequence 0, the storm pathway, is called. Klein looked out the window again and saw that although the weather was still gloomy, the morning sun was up. The sound of the tide had retreated and the rain had stopped. He pulled back his thoughts and analyzed the situation from the information that Donitz had revealed. The potion's name is Sea King, which means that the corresponding Sequence 3 demigods, saints, have to act as a Sea King, and all acting has one premise, which is that one possesses all the power needed. As a Sea King, he would definitely be powerful. He would definitely be a powerful ruler of the seas and controls, even if there's a distance limitation. He would be able to walk freely on the seabed, cause tsunamis as he wishes, raise the sea levels, and control marine life, fighting for their home ground. They'll absolutely compel... Dude, that seems like pretty chill. I feel like what I've noticed is that at a certain point, you just become really OP. Like, aggressively OP. Fighting in their home ground, they are absolutely capable of suppressing all demigods at the same level. The King of the Five Seas and the Queen Mystic are roughly at this level as well. It's just that there are differences in strength because of the different degrees of digestion and grasp on their powers. But no matter what, as long as they're at sea, sea kings are nearly unbeatable. With the abilities displayed by the Sea King coupled with the oceanic environment, if one hasn't seen the eternal blazing sun, true creator, or other true gods, it's not incomprehensible that people would worship him, believe in him, and pray to him. Many of these deities who receive primitive worship might be at this level. They might not even be angels. Yes, did not look directly at God refers to a true deity. Previously, sea god Kalvatua didn't give me such a feeling, nor did Amon's avatar. Of course, I can't be sure if the actual body of the King of Angels has some kind of attribute that also doesn't allow one to look directly at them. One is the sea god who's on the verge of collapse at most in sequence 3, while the other is a sea king who is in good condition and is able to use sealed artifacts at any time. The outcome is obvious. Jan Kottman would definitely be able to suppress Kalvatua's madness and prevent the sea from drowning Bayam. He would prevent the entire Blue Mountain Island and many cities from turning into a lost sea ruin. Just wait a few more days. Kalvatua's madness will completely dissipate, which will end up resolving in matters. This is simplest and most effective way to deal with the situation, and it wouldn't bring about any panic at all. Most people here wouldn't even detect anything amiss. However, there are also some problems. Firstly, there wouldn't be any accidents. It's a mystery that the archaeologist Leticia did in Simim Island. She had single-handedly orchestrated the death of the sea god. Perhaps the forces backing her entered the Mosaic Aztec order, or the element Dawn might take the opportunity to seek something. This is the greatest dormant danger. Yes, there should also be a high sequence beyond her in the Governor General's office and the military. This is a colonial base, and Kingdoms has the central Sonia Sea. Things won't turn out to be too bad. Then there are the fanatical believers who will most likely become sacrifices as Kalvatua becomes madder and closer to death. There's like stalks during the harvest, falling down in bunches. However, for the Church of Storms, this isn't too bad of a development. The most pious of the heretics would die with their deity, which would save them the trouble of screening out and handing them. If they aren't too pious, they won't be affected too much, and it's possible to reform them and only draw back, as the Rorst Archipelago would be lacking in manpower. For a long period of time, although such a problem is troublesome, as long as they grit their teeth, things can be resolved. Thus, the Church of Storms seeking Yaon. I feel like I read pretty well. It's just certain words that mess me up a little bit here and there. It's all the bullying, see? All the bullying. It's making me a better speller and a better reader. Like I'm a fucking second grader. Although such a problem is troublesome, as long as they grit their teeth, things can be resolved. Yeah. I was kind of waiting for it because I didn't get a compliment at the beginning, and then we're like 10 minutes in and no one's really slandered me at all, so I was just kind of taking the W, but I was unsure of what was happening for a minute there. I wonder how many people will die in the native enclaves and slums because of this. Klein's thoughts were suddenly interrupted by a uniform set of footsteps roar high in the sky. Instinctively, he looked up and saw airships painted in dark blue and several cannon muzzles and machine guns sticking out, flying past him as they headed in different directions. On the main street, soldiers in red coats, white pants, and black leather boots were lined up in a neat row. They were carrying rifles and dragging cannons as contingents of them moved past. The tense and solemn atmosphere suddenly spread. This is a colony. Klein implicitly felt mixed feelings as he sighed to himself. I wonder how long it'll take the church to get rid of the sea serpent and find the place where it's hidden. This place is definitely a treasure trove with countless precious items. Donitz, whose main job was a treasure hunter, suddenly spoke, appearing both expectant and full of regret. His attitude had changed extremely quick. He had already reduced the sea god to a sea serpent, using it as a pronoun. The church won't do anything other than keep the matter suppressed. It'll see Kalvatua perish just from waiting for a few days. Of course, members of the Church of Storms might not have that kind of patience, especially when I've heard that Jan Kottman's main job is being a high-ranking deacon of the Mandated Punishers. It's just that with the archipelago isolated overseas, he also works part-time as a cardinal to unify his authority. Perhaps his style of doing things is more like that of the Mandated Punishers. In place where Calvituo is hiding, that ruin is almost integrated into the spirit world. Finding it wouldn't be so easy. Otherwise, it would have to lead such an object experience until today. At this thought, Klein suddenly had an idea. Finding the ruin where Keltavua is hiding would be very difficult to find from the real world. Since it had already perished, it's not something that can be found in a year or so unless more accurate information is obtained. But if the search is done from the spirit world would make it even harder to pinpoint its location. But it doesn't completely lack options. Snake of Mercury, Will Septon has once done so with the help of his Folder Crane. I still have no idea how to do that exactly, but this is important. I can ask Mr. Azek's death domain controls path as the authority of the spirit world. The underworld, or should I say hell, was created by Phoenix ancestor Grey Grace in the spirit world. A thought flashed through Klein's mind. He took out the ancient and exquisite copper whistle, put it in his mouth, and blew into it. He believed that even if he returned to the bedroom or entered the washroom, the messenger's massive body would be discovered by Donitz, who similarly had non-trivial spiritual perception, so he didn't avoid him. Donitz was imagining the treasures of the sea god Calvatua when he suddenly felt a chill at his neck. He felt something inwardly, and he quickly activated his spirit vision before he looked to the side. There he saw white bones spewing out from the ground and flying upwards, forming a giant skeleton with an illusory head that pierced through the ceiling. The skeleton slightly lowered his head. Its two pitch-black flames in its eyes were visible even through the ceiling. The oppressive feeling brought by its massive body made Donitz jump to the side. His body was half bent, and he conjured a scarlet flame in the palm of his hand. What kind of monster is this? Donitz looked at... Poor Donitz. He just really goes through it. Gehrman Sparrow in surprise, only to see him holding a copper whistle and lifting his head as he looked at the skeletal monster. Klein looked up at a huge messenger as the huge messenger looked down at him. Both parties seemed frozen in place. I was too anxious. I summoned the messenger before I even wrote the letter. Should I make it stay here or let it return first and let it come back later? I'm Gehrman Sparrow now. Yes, Gehrman Sparrow. Klein didn't say anything. He immediately withdrew his gaze, took his time and found a pen and paper, and he began to write the letter. He gave a general description of the matter regarding sea god Calvatua, but he concealed the fact that he had nearly been possessed and how he had to borrow the gray fog to dispute the curse. He mixed in information about Calvatua's ruins, where it hid, when describing the dream he just had. Perhaps a solution can be produced using the spirit world, but I lack the corresponding knowledge and hope to receive your guidance. Klein folded the paper and turned to see the messenger's hand. He clenched at some point in time. He pretended not to notice anything and threw the letter up. The messenger paused for a second, then he opened his hands, caught the letter. The body suddenly disintegrated and the bones crumbled down, drilling into the floor. What was that? Donitz finally uttered a sound. Klein glanced at him and replied calmly, Messenger. Messenger. Donitz was stunned for a moment, but understood what he meant. Such a huge and terrifying monster is actually a messenger used for delivering letters. Indeed, there's a powerful secret organization behind Gehrman Sparrow. If I had such a messenger, everyone on the ship would envy me. It would be really, really cool. Donitz thought of how he would brag and flaunt his messenger when he returned to the ship. Putting away Azek's copper whistle, Clyde got a chair, sat down, prepared to eat breakfast in a while. After a while, he heard knocking at the door. Donitz wearily went over, and with the help of the people, he noticed that the person in the door was a middle-aged man with boat-shaped hat. Ellen, how did you find this place? Donitz asked as he opened the door. The visitor was the captain of the White Agate, just Elend. With wrinkles at the corner of his eyes, Elend looked into the room and chuckled. When you were checking into this hotel, you used Gehrman Sparrow's name for registration. It's easy with a look. That's because this identity is quite proper and innocent. Besides, in the eyes of the Church of Storms, I belong to the military. Klein slowly stood up and said to Elend, What happened? Elend pointed out the side and said, Bayham met with an accident, but it's not a big problem. The military has joined forces with the church, and they're currently conducting a search and arrest operation throughout the city. They're searching for few powerful beyonders who are archaeologists in name. In order to find the target as soon as possible, the military has used all their resources, but it's still not enough for such a large city. They believe that although you're of unknown origins, you're very friendly to us. They hope they hope you can They hope you can help with the search and prevent any accidents from happening. The corresponding remuneration will be available after the matter. This is all thanks to you for exaggerating my degree of friendliness. That is to say, no, I was doing so good. That is to say, after the Church of the Goddess and the Church received machinery, I can once again receive money from the military. For a moment, Klein felt mixed feelings. Seeing that he didn't answer immediately, Ellen added, although there won't be any major problems, the earlier we find the target, the earlier we can control the corresponding disaster. And perhaps that might save a few people. Clyde felt silent for a moment before gently nodding. Okay. Dude, I was reading so well. And then I just kind of lost it that last little bit. Ooh. Bam. Under. Curfew. Love it. Oh my god, that took me so long to read. 16 pages, okay. Seeing Garamond Sparrow. How many chapters are in Volume 3? Like, what chapter is Volume 3 done at? I wonder. Hello. Seeing Garamond Sparrow put on his coat. It ends at 7:32. Oh, I have so much farther to go. Never mind. I was like looking, I was like, oh my god, I'm already on like chapter 542. I'm getting so close. No, not even a little bit. I have over 100 chapters to go. Awesome. Seeing Garamond Sparrow put on his coat and hat and pick up the cane, Donitz recalled that he had apparently been forgotten. He coughed once, and under the gaze of two pairs of eyes, he said, Do I need to follow? It's best not to. Who knows what happened behind this? We had only stopped at Bancy Harbor, but we ended up encouraging a rather strange situation last night. I brought Garamond Sparrow to visit the Resistance liaison, and ended up being involved with the Sea God's curse. Okay, is Red Rising good? Because I want to start reading it. I've heard nothing but good things, and my old roommate was reading it, and he said it was actually insane. But, like, so good. Yeah, pause me reading. How was Red Rising? Because I probably will read it. It's best not to. Who knows what would happen before this? We had only stopped at Bancy Harbor, but we ended up encouraging a rather strange situation. Last night I brought Garamond Sparrow to visit the Renaissance liaison and ended up being involved with the Sea Goddess curse. Today, if we were able to follow the madman to search for Leticia... Okay. And the other archaeologist, then who knows what would happen. Donald looked down and glanced down at his left arm, which was still tied into a splint. In a matter of days, he felt that he had encountered more events than he had months or even half a year. You can stay here, but someone will be here for the sweep later, Ellen laughed. Someone will sweep this area, and then the great pirate blazing would be caught and turned into gold pounds. Donald frowned and laughed dryly. Aside from the reward, there aren't many opportunities to earn money from the military. I'm very willing to give it a try. The only problem is that you have to wait a few minutes. I'll don a disguise. Mr. Captain, I don't want to put you on the spot by causing unnecessary misunderstandings. If I don't disguise myself for the great pirate, like myself to engage in operations with the military and the church, it will only result in me being captured immediately. Donitz imagined himself being pressed down, having a knee crunch, crushing his back, struggling like a catfish. After thinking for a few seconds, Ellen took out an iron black mask from under his pocket and tossed it over. Just put it on, I'll explain later. Yes, there's no need to waste time on useless disguises. Klein evaluated inwardly without a word. He turned his handle and walked out of the room. Ellen followed close behind, and Donitz hurried to catch up with them as he grabbed his coat and put on the iron mask. When they reached the street where there was a lot of flooding but no pedestrians on the street, Klein pressed down on his hat and asked, "How do we start?" Ellen laughed. "In regions. My Beyonder job has some special characteristics. As long as I see the person in the flesh in a photo or a sketch, then I'll be able to firmly remember the target's appearance and obtain an additional sense on an extraordinary level. Yes, I can also detect any abnormalities and grasp indistinct traces. When put together, it allows me to do investigative sweeps in a rather effective manner." He's like a bloodhound. Sequence 8 Sheriff. Oh, that makes sense. Of the Arbiter pathway, Klein nodded thoughtfully and asked as they walked, "Do you have their belongings?" The poster Donitz had posted last night had a portrait of Leticia attached to it. Klein had used ritualistic magic to pray to himself and produce it. "No," Ellen shook his head. "We have yet to learn their previous whereabouts. The only thing that we can confirm is that they didn't return from the Simeon Island until around 3 p.m. yesterday, and after 2 p.m. no passenger ships left the dock, and that due to the weather this morning, only entry is permitted. In other words, Leticia and company haven't left by boat yet." Klein understood what Ellen meant. Donitz suddenly let out a sneer. "That doesn't mean anything. Maybe they left Bam yesterday afternoon and went to the other cities on the island." Blue Mountain Island was the largest island in the Rorstad archipelago. It was very large in size and had dense forests and rich mineral resources. Therefore, there were many cities on the island, and they were all built around fertile land with astonishing mineral resource reserves. For this wealth, the Lowen Kingdom first bribed the indigenous... no. He's really taken a lot of pieces from history here. The Lowen Kingdom first bribed the indigenous prince, then forced them to use force, and finally set up the Governor General's office. In a more efficient manner, it opened wide roads leading to cities and completed several important railways. This was in the form of establishing a corresponding railway company to sell shares and raise funds on the Backland Stock Exchange. Of course, these large projects were accompanied by the death of many local people. Shocking. Sinister construction workplaces, excessive work, almost slave-like treatment, and a fairly modest salary, which allowed bodies to be buried one after another under the railroad and the rail bed's ties. To this day, a large number of locals still loathe the railway, believing that it will swallow a large amount of human life and brought about countless suffering. It was the symbol of an evil god and devil. Ellen turned his head and glanced at Donitz and said, "If they leave by land, then there's nothing to worry about." "Why?" Donitz asked, puzzled. "It's very simple. The roads that lead the forests are controlled by the resistance, and the majority of the resistance are believers of the god. Hence, how would Leticia and the others who were responsible for Calbatuas breakdown dare to pass through these regions at night? If they dared to, then they can only mean one thing. They didn't realize the severity of the consequences of what they had done in the sea god ruins on Samim Island. This also negates the conjecture that either the Mosaic Aztec order or Element Dawn has other motives." Klein controlled the urge to shake his head, and he followed Ellen onto another street. Without explaining anything, Ellen took out a notice and handed it to Garamond Sparrow. "The main target is a woman. I drew this woman." Klein glanced at it before tossing it to Donitz. At this moment, they heard the intense sound of fighting coming from the side room. "She has been found?" Donitz asked the question Klein wanted to ask. "Probably not." Ellen shook his head. "According to the orders, the first thing to do when discovering the target is to release red fireworks. Once it appears, everyone will close in on the location. If one encounters other wanted criminals who cannot handle alone, they are to release orange fireworks. Surrounding teams would rush over to reinforce them. If they're ordinary pirates of criminals, we are to handle them ourselves. Let's wait. Perhaps this happened. Perhaps it's because the fireworks couldn't be released in time. While he was talking, the glass on the third story of the house facing the street shattered and cracked. A bear-like brawny man jumped down. His speed was extremely fast as he ran to the distance like a cheetah. At that moment, an enormous shadow enveloped him. The Gatling sounds came from the sky above. The brawny man's body was almost torn apart by the machine gun fire as he fell to the ground without putting up any resistance. Blood flowed out and dried the ground red. If the residents weren't forbidden to leave their homes, they would have screamed. At some point in time, the airship floated over. It didn't stop, and it turned around another division. Goldat. Donitz recognized the victim. Seeing Garamond Sparrow turn his head over, he forced a smile and said, "This is the leader of the pirate crew. He's from Faceac with a bounty of 950 pounds. Faceac, so they really are savages. He actually ran on a curfewed street, completely unaware to be on guard of attacks from above. That's right, some pirates spent their entire night in a drunken stupor. They have no idea that even airships have been dispatched. If they had planned his escape route, then he might have been able to dodge the machine gun fire." Klein looked away and watched the monster in the dark blue paint fly over the roof. When Donitz saw the pirate outcome, he was grateful that he had followed Garamond out. Seeing that the alert over here had been lifted, Ellen didn't linger any longer and led Klein and Donitz to the area that he was in charge of. After walking quietly for 5-6 minutes, they saw a barricade at the intersection in front of them. Guns were mounted and cannons were set up. Lone soldiers in red uniforms stood up over the area in silence. On the other side of the barricade, 20 to 30 corpses lay scattered on the ground, forming a vanguard formation. Their clothes were tattered and their faces gone, clearly indicating that they were natives. A little further away, several young native children were hiding in the corner. They were quietly looking at them in fear. Their eyes were dark and their face was dirty. Klein and company felt silent for a few seconds before circling around them. "What are you, fucking vultures?" Backlund Cherrywood Burrow. Forrest lifted the ceramic cup from the table and felt the heat. She roused herself and quickly waited for any changes. The temperature of the hot water dropped rapidly, and the thin layer of ice appeared on the surface of the liquid. White frost appeared on the rim of the cup. "I'm a trick master now." Forrest closed her eyes in delight. She didn't waste any time after receiving the Spirit Eater's stomach pouch, immediately concocting the potion and completing the advancement. She obtained quite a number of spells with lower potency. Among them, Forrest's favorite were Fog, Wind, Flash, Freezing, Electric Shock, and Tumble, which made people slip. Only at this point did she feel that she was a complete beyonder. She was no longer someone who could only pass through walls and rely solely on ritualistic magic. At almost noon, Ellen, with the help of Klein and Donitz, had completed most of the investigation. "Let's eat some bread and drink some water before continuing." He took off his boat-shaped hat and spoke with parched lips. Klein was about to nod when he saw an orange firework fly into the air not far away. Without hesitation, Ellen put on his hat and ran in that direction. "I'll go and support them. Orange means other wanted criminals that cannot be dealt with. Who could it be?" Donitz said to himself with interest. He switched to a gate of raising? Anyway, his legs high as he proceeded forward, hoping that the battle would be over before he arrived. Then he saw Garamond Sparrow follow behind, just Ellen leaving him alone by himself. Don't ask me, I don't know. It was not Gallop. I don't even know. Glancing at the dark blue monster flying in direction, Donitz let out a hollow laugh and quickened his pace. 2 minutes later, he arrived at their destination and saw a house. Now I'm thinking galloping. Saw a house with a lawn facing a street. 3 or 4 military personnel were lying on the ground. Their faces were pale and their bodies were trembling as if they had been thrown into a frozen lake. The more Klein walked in the direction, the colder it felt. It was as if he had arrived in the polar region. Soon he discovered that the ditches outside the house... Here's the thing, I do that most of the time, and then every time I do it, I instantly regret it, because then I just see a line of chat roasting me for it and slandering my name through the dirt. Soon he discovered that the ditches outside the house were filled with thick snow. Just then, a burst of female laughter came from inside the house at varying pitches, alternating between craziness and strangeness. I'm not going to do the laugh, but just pretend someone's laughing really crazy. Donis couldn't help but stop and touch his neck, which was covered in goosebumps, with his right hand. With a clanging sound, the window opened and a charred body flew out. It landed hard on the ground as if it were caught in an inferno. With just a glance, Klein was able to recognize through his spirit intuition that this was one of the 3 male adventurers who followed Leticia. Oh, wonderful. Oh my gosh, time flew by so fast. Okay. We're gonna see how fast we can get this done. This might be my last chapter, I'm not gonna lie. So sorry. But you know what? Every day we get a little bit closer to real depression, which always comes at like, not the end of the volumes, but at like a good point. Did I just center that perfectly? I did. Go me. Okay, chapter 5. Yeah, there's 18 pages in this chapter. Okay, chapter 543. The reality that... Oh my god, no. Sometimes I just make it too easy. Sometimes I really just make it too easy. And I have no one to blame but myself, you know? And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Chapter 543. The reality that exceeds expectations. Yeah. The target appears to have been found. Klein looked away and made a rough judgment. There was no reality of things. It's just the reality of things sometimes, you know? It was burnt black, which means that the Ellen clearly didn't reorganize this as one of their targets. After observing the situation, listening to the creeping laughter for a few seconds, he pointed to the 3 or 4 military personnel lying outside the house. Drag them back first, then wait for the other teams to arrive before launching our attack. Or, he hesitated for a moment and then raised his head to look at the approaching dark blue airships. Without another word or without instructing Klein and Donitz, Ellen ran to an unconscious military personnel whose faces were purple. Tap, tap, tap. The closer he got, the weaker his steps became. In the end, his body became stiff, and every step he took became extremely difficult. Ellen, who had been the boatswain in Imperial Navy, was experienced. He decisively stopped moving forward and turned around slowly, walking back one step at a time. The more he walked, the smoother it became. Before he was still shaking uncontrollably, his eyebrows and temples were covered in a thin layer of frost. The quick freezing effects that defies common sense, an extremely cold reminiscent of disaster. With Ellen's attempt, Klein was able to grasp the danger level of this area, and he could only sigh inwardly. Unfortunately, the sun brooch isn't able to produce actual heat. It's only a stimulation of one's mind, although it can make a body generate clear effects. It will only allow a person to withstand this cold for 3 to 4 seconds at most. Looking at Ellen's chattering teeth and how he was unable to open his mouth despite wanting to say something, Klein's gaze swept over Donitz. He threw his cane and said in a low voice, "Fire." Fire? Donitz was stunned at first, but he quickly understood Garamond Sparrow. He had also witnessed the entire process of Ellen's failure. The scarlet fireball that couldn't be considered bright formed Donitz's right palm. He threw it towards the flanks of the military personnel. A fireball traveled for nearly 20 meters and then landed on the ground without creating an explosive sound. Instead, the quiet It quietly rose into the air. The scarlet pillar of fire emanated sizzling sounds as it continuously shrank and quickly dimmed. Suddenly, it expanded as if it was in a desperate struggle before it perished. Klein, wearing a black tweed coat, jumped out and landed right next to the military personnel. He bent down and reached out with both hands and grabbed the man's clothes. Then he pushed his feet against the ground, exerted strength at his waist, and threw the man out. The military personnel immediately flew into the air, smoothly flying out before landing 10 meters away from the area, escaping the region with the coldest chill. After doing this, Klein snapped his fingers and lit a match. In his pocket before the chill seeped into his body, the scarlet streams of flames gushed out like water, instantly enveloping him. Damn. By the time everything faded, Klein had disappeared from his location. Flames leaped out, flickering and extinguishing from time to time. With the help of Donitz's fireball and his own matches, Klein constantly phased around in extreme cold areas, easily throwing out several military personnel. After 2 to 3 attempts, he carried the last member of the military back to his original position. Ellen had clearly recovered as he gave a thumbs up. I'm very glad and honored to have made the decision to ask for your help today. Captain, I'd like your tactical praise. Also, remember to raise the reimbursement. I just about said reimbursement. Remuneration. Klein nodded politely, half turned, and looked at the old window at the house. He heard laughter grow stronger. Thinking of old Neil. Donitz pursued his lips at the side and silently cursed Ellen. Do you not see the contribution I made? Although my fireball has become something akin to a prop for a magic show, it still made actual contributions. Donitz just wants to be seen. He just wants Klein to notice him. Old grave. That's crazy. This guy's nickname is just Ellen. He's not just at all. As he muttered, a shadow loomed over the area, and the airship had arrived in the air opposite them. Evacuate the people in the surrounding houses. An officer shouted from the airship. After Ellen and 2 other teams cleared several nearby buildings, the airship lowered its altitude and adjusted its cannon muzzles. Boom, boom, boom. The cannon fired continuously, bombarding the house, which was still filled with creeping laughter. Hearing the explosion and seeing the flashes of flames, Klein sighed as he held his cane. This is the firepower bombardment he advocated. He had once proposed to the Tingen city, but unable to put it into practice. And today, however, the overseas colonists were producing a real scene before him. Ellen and the others stood guard in different positions under the deafening sound of the cannons, so as to prevent the people, or perhaps monsters inside, breaking out. Soon as the house collapsed, the smoke rose from the piles of masonry. All the shows and ice were gone. Suddenly, a thick bolt of lightning flashed over, striking the airship. Klein frowned. He saw the airship was completely still and heard a steam boiler producing a jarring sound. The dark blue monster in the sky lost some control. Significant amounts of smoke began to billow out as the beginning descended on the side. Seems like they're being shielded by ammunition and being protected by an outer layer of air. I thought it would cause an explosion, blasting the airship into pieces. Klein turned his full attention back to the collapsed house. When he initially felt the extreme coldness, he saw the male adventurer's charred body. Oh damn, he thought he had met another demon. He thought he had met another demoness, one who'd grasped the witch potion formula. Having dealt with the demoness several times, he knew that beyonders of this pathway could control ice and black flames from Sequence 7. Do we get another demoness? We get them in every single volume. I always get so excited. But the flash of lightning had made him reject this judgment. He believed that Leticia was indeed a member of the Moses Aztec Order, or Elemental Dawn, a real woman. Demoness women are real women. Coined it 2025. Equal fights for equal rights. She was a female of... the moment Klein arrived at this conclusion, the pile of bricks and wood were immediately lifted away. The bright red and charred figure crawled out, with its elbows used to prop it up from the ground. She was a female, and Leticia's original appearance could barely be recognized. This made Ellen and the others shocked to discover that this is already found their target. However, compared to before, Leticia's current state was both terrifying and miserable. Her body was covered in black spots. The artillery shells... I just realized I probably should change the music for this chapter. And and we're just gonna blame Cammy for that because he wasn't here and didn't mention anything about changing the music. And you can tell him I said that. I'd say it to his face. Her body was covered in black spots. The artillery shells had torn open. Blame Cammy 2025. White, fat, that seemed to have a life of its own squirming inside her body. It's not slander if it's true. The top of her head split open. Her brain came out, oozing out, sticking to the surface like the palms of children overlapping each other. Her gray eyes were out of focus, one of them blazing with fire, the other flashing with lightning. Two heads were screaming in pain. Were embodied her abdomen below her chest. There were other two male adventurers. Oh, so they like... Thank you, yeah. You guys always pussy out every time Cammy comes in and he goes after me. You guys better back me up on this one. Because as I'm reading this, I was like, this was definitely a music change chapter, and nobody told me. Yeah, thank you. Also, I just realized they were like conjoined. Not only has she lost control, but she also appears to be corrupted. She was already severely injured from the previous bombardment, and her aura had dropped to an extreme level. Klein didn't take action and instead watched as the Beyonder from the military began to attack. Psychic... all the chapters are so boring to me. This one's not boring. Like, there's stuff happening in this chapter. Yeah. It might not be, like, the craziest things that are happening, but this is definitely something. She just split open like the human centipede. Like, what are we talking about? The series of attacks Rampager Leticia, who had enough time to crack the ground and spread the cracks outwardly, completely broke down and became a dismembered corpse. Her torso fell to the ground and heads of two male adventurers rolled out. Klein's eyes slightly narrowed. He discovered that there was a yellowish-brown book hidden within the flesh, and blood of Leticia's abdomen. Yeah, I don't know if he's here. There might be no moderators in the chat. On the surface of the book, there was a line of words written in Elvish, Book of Calamity. Is Klein gonna get another book? What do these books and notebooks always find themselves in the stomachs of people? Preach, Klein. Klein lampooned, then he's suspected that the Book of Calamity was an item that was a fake archaeologist Leticia had taken from the ruins of the sea god. At this moment, some military personnel grabbed the two male adventurer heads and seemed capable of speaking and hurriedly asked, "What did you do in the ruin of the sea god? Sea god ruins?" One of the male adventurers answered with pain and confusion, "We haven't been there." He tried to move his eyes to check the situation before his neck. The sea god ruin in Simeem Island. The military personnel reminded him. "No, we didn't." The male adventurer who wanted to shake his head, but he couldn't do so. "We went to the ancient elven ruin. Leticia found a book there. She liked it very much. She quickly began to study it. Then she went mad. She's crazy." As the male adventurer shouted out, whatever was left of his mind completely dissipated. It's not a lost temple of the sea god, but a ruin of the ancient elves. This is very different from what I imagined. Klein was about to listen carefully when Ellen came over and politely asked him and Donitz. I just called him Donitz. Nobody tell Cammy. To distance themselves from the interrogation. Turning to another street, Klein slowed down and thought with this whole thing. Why would Leticia act? Dance is making a... And I don't even say dance, I say like dance. Why would Leticia act of taking the Book of Calamity out of the ancient elven ruins? Cause sea god Calvatua to be no longer capable of maintaining its exterior, slowly bringing the power of breaking down. What's the connection between the two? Elves, sea gods, according to little... Oh! More lore drop! Elves, sea god, according to Little Sun, the ancient god, elf king Sonia Thrym, wielded the present authorities of the Lord of Storms. That is to say, the elves no doubt possess sequence 3, Sea King, or even higher sequence 2. Could it be that it was by chance that the sea serpent Calvatua discovered a ruin by the elves at the bottom of the sea, directly devoured the beyonder characteristics left behind by a certain high elf, and was lucky enough to survive the two possibilities? Are we gonna meet the elves? I really want to. I want to meet the elves. I want to meet the giants. I want to meet the dragons. I want to meet all of them because I'm like really, really excited. I don't miss a single stream. I'm like, you really don't. Honestly, this is probably gonna be my last chapter because I gotta go because Stray Kids is dropping their new album. But you know what? We might get some new mods up in this bitch. New mod alert! Could it be that it was by chance the sea serpent Calvatua discovered a ruin of the elves at the bottom of the sea, directly devoured by the beyonder characteristic left behind by a certain high elf, and was lacking enough to survive the two possibilities of death and losing control? As such, it succeeded in acquiring a rank of demigod and gradually gained the faith of the Roasted Archipelago's natives. Klein slowly... Yeah, you know what? You did watch in class. You have watched in class quite a bit. Klein slowly came to realization that he had to thank Mr. Hangman for this. Initially, Little Sun didn't reveal the corresponding authorities of the 8 ancient gods, but later, under the guidance of the Hangman, he explained some things, including that Elf King Sonia Thrim general situation. As for devouring beyonder characteristics or the corresponding ingredients to advance, it wasn't something that didn't happen. Before the potion system was fully constructed, the human ancestors had made similar attempts to obtain beyonder powers. Wait, I was like reading it, but I wasn't like clocking when I was reading. Wait, what was it? Okay. He made similar attempts to obtain beyonder characteristics, but only a very small group of extremely fortunate people had managed to survive to become beyonders without becoming monsters, lunatics, or dying on the spot, with their flesh and blood falling apart. Such an attempt had a 1 in 1,000 chance of success, or even in a row, a 10,000 chance of success. After the potion system was established, no one was willing to take such a risk. If that's the case, then Calvatua was indeed very lucky back then. Of course, there's also the factor of its strong physique. However, its intelligence didn't seem to increase much, only being capable of deceiving its believers. It didn't actually find any traces of the elven ruins on Siameme Island, and how it's closely related to the one it's hiding in. After Leticia and company took the Book of Calamity, that ruin collapsed, causing Calvatua's hiding spot to experience abnormalities, resulting in the barely surviving Calvatua to be unable to hold out for longer. This can explain how Leticia and company managed to easily succeed. There aren't many members of the resistance of the sea god's followers defending the area. Only when something happened did Calvatua discover the problem and realize the connection between the two ruins. With what he just gathered, Klein tried to explain what he had been wondering the whole time. This includes why the dying sea god Calvatua didn't allow his followers to become carriers. It would have reduced most of the accidents and made things easier. With the brutality Calvatua displayed, it was only right that it made such a choice. To answer Klein arrived at was that the body Calvatua wanted to corrupt and possess had to have a certain amount of elven blood, and that was the only way to survive the transfer beyond characteristics up to a certain level. However, when Klein touched it, due to the gray fog and his uniqueness, it allowed Calvatua to instantly find a better target. Interesting. Okay, sorry for all of you guys who just joined. I said at the beginning of the stream, Stray Kids is dropping their new album tonight, so we're gonna have to cut stream a little short today. Totally my bad. So that's all we're gonna read. Just those few chapters. But we will go back to like regular streaming hours tomorrow, which will be good. And will be good. So that was last chapter. That's what we're gonna do. Ended on a pretty good note. I mean, like, that chapter was like fairly interesting. I don't know what Cammy's talking about. The chapters aren't like crazy, but they're still pretty good. And we're also, if I was to look, we're also 25% done. We're also 25% done. Yeah. Yeah. Um, it is a valid, it is understandable, it is a valid reason. And you could tell me that it's not, and I really couldn't care less. So we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna go, and then we'll pick it back up tomorrow, and we'll do like the full time. But other than that, thanks so much for coming. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm also probably gonna do a review tomorrow because I wanna. Yeah, dude, no lag. It was a good little stream. It was good. And then I just want to remember back when you were streaming on Twitch. My friends, but I was watching you. You know what? I appreciate it. I'll take it. Thank you. I will do some extra mods next time, just in case any of them aren't here, and then we have some extras. But other than that, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.